The other area that he's had tremendous success on, and it's you're out there in California, is this border stuff, which I find amazing. It just shows the difference in leadership. And I think what's fascinating to me is, okay, he won. He's secured the border. He showed us what the difference in leadership can do. But the Democrats attacking openly these ICE agents and going after, it's like, I have never seen anything so politically stupid in my life. Watching these Democrats double down on siding with criminals and against federal agents who are doing their job.
Yeah, it's a losing issue, but it's reflective. They don't have the House, they don't have the Senate, they don't have the White House, they don't have the Supreme Court. They're on 20% of the issues, or 30% at most, and they're impotent. And unlike last time, this time Trump is saying, I'm not going to address the symptoms alone of the progressive project. I'm going after the sources. So they would say traditionally, well, we don't have any power temporarily in the legislative or executive or judicial branch, but we control PBS, NPR, the universities, foundations, the media. And now all of a sudden they're looking at this and they're saying, oh my God, he's going after PBS, he's going after the universities, he's going after foundations, he's taxing. He's going after the source of our institutional power, how we exercise influence. He's going to ruin the progressive project. And they go crazy and they look out. So they don't know what to do. So Hakeem Jeffries carries a bat. That's stupid. Al Green screams and yells and shakes a cane. They have these smutty videos with the S word and the F word. And now they've turned it over to the internet mob and the street killers. I mean, these guys are killers. These people are trying to assassinate. But they're not much worse than the internet mob, who sides with, I guess they were gleeful about the children dying in Texas because they thought it proved that these people deserved what they got because they were supposedly MAGA, red state, climate denialists or Doge people. And so that Democratic Party has no infrastructure. There's no influence anymore. Just 5 years ago, when they saw that Democratic field in 2020, that Buttigieg and had won, I think he won Iowa, and they had lost, Biden had lost New Hampshire, and to Bernie, and they said, Elizabeth Warren, Buttigieg, Bernie, Castro Betters, Cook, they got to get out of here. We've got to get old Joe Biden from Scranton, play him up, use him as a waxen effigy, but we'll get killed. That's all over now. They would never do that again. The AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie, they run that party now.
I just can't believe
it to the ground.
I don't think I ever pictured a day when you would see them openly, this attack on the ICE facility down in McAllen, Texas. There was another one in Texas, and yet not a single Democrat was asked nor came out publicly and denounced it. It's not one.
No, I didn't think they would, because after the death of George Floyd, there was a constant riot every night for June, July, August, September, October. In June, Kamala Harris said this isn't going to stop, nor should it stop. It's going to go on to election. They burned a precinct, police. They burned a courthouse. They burned a historic church. They killed 35 people. 1,500 officers were injured. $2 to $3 billion in damage. They arrested 14,000. They let them all go. That was like 1% or 2%. So in the left's mind, the Democratic establishment, they said, that really hurt Trump, because we had him in a lose-lose situation. If he called out federal troops, our blue state mayors and governors would refuse them and call him Hitler. Our military would even the military call him Hitler. But if he doesn't do it, the chaos of 4 or 5 months shows you that he loses control. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but they came away from that thinking that was one of the reasons that Donald Trump lost the election. And in their mind, we can have a replay of that. We can unleash these street thugs and mobs, and we'll force Trump either to nationalize state guards or bring in the Marines, and that'll help us, or he can't do anything and he looks impotent. And 2020 sunk him, and we're going to do this before the midterms, and the chaos will make him look bad. It's not that they're not doing anything. They welcome what's going on. I really believe that.
Well, I read your column about what's going on in New York City and the election of Zohan Mandami. And I think what's fascinating to me about what you were writing is like they have now gone from supporting liberal policies to all out embracing socialism. It's not a fringe part of the party anymore. It is the main nut of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, they're in a revolutionary cycle. It reminds me of the French Revolution. You know, you start out with the monarchy's bad, so we'll have a constitutional monarchy where we'll have a legislative body, but it'll have to defer to the king. And then we're going to have a legislative sovereign body, and then we're going to have an economic, social confiscation movement to confiscate land. Then we're going to go after the clergy. Then we're going to have Robespierre get the guillotine out and kill all the counter-revolutionaries. And then it'll finally get to the point where you can't go any further left, and then you have a counter-revolution. I think that's what's happening right now. They can't get any more left than they are. And well, I mean, when you're killing ICE agents or you're blaming children for their own deaths, or you have campus where they're harassing Jews, it's hard to get much worse. And you're starting to see this counter-revolution. And I think there's a good chance that Trump will either not lose seats in the House midterms. We don't know. It's a long way away. Or he actually pick up seats.
I'm with you. I agree. Yeah.
I
think that they are poised, I think, with the record they have and the passage of this bill to actually pick up seats. And
I believe they will.
Because once again, as we talked about just a minute ago, the experts aren't basing anything on fact. It's just, well, I looked at a historical trend and therefore this is my conclusion. Nothing based on an analysis of each of the seats or voter registration, as we like to do on the show. It's just, well, historically speaking, this is what happens. Well, that's great, but
yeah, it's funny. They say that he's going to lose the Latino vote. The Latino vote was 54% in the last Rasmussen, and it was higher than the so-called white vote. I just went in. I live in a community that's 95% Hispanic, and I turn on the TV and they say the Hispanics are in revolt. I go to the post office today. 6 Mexican American guys come up to me and say, "You got to help Trump. You got to help Trump. Trump. Jefe, Trump." If I said to somebody that at Stanford, they think I was crazy. And you ask, "You like Trump?" "Oh, I love Trump." He goes, "The illegals, they swarm the dialysis clinic where my mother goes. They have 7 EBT cards I got to pay for. They come in from southern Mexico with M13 and they beat up Mexican American kids that don't speak Spanish." They have a lot of practical, reasonable, logical reasons not to want an open border, but you never hear that from anybody. And there's and they were shocked in the 2024 election because of that. So if I think the only thing they have to worry about is overconfidence and let down their guard.
Yeah.
And I mean that in every way, because about Trump's health, his safety, these people are capable of anything, and they've got to be very careful and be aware of everything that can happen.
In the column that you wrote on Mandami, you made a really interesting point that I hadn't thought of before, and it really made me pause and think, and let me just read it for the audience. He said, "Mandami reflects a pattern of affluent, left-wing, and highly educated immigrants from impoverished countries. Barack Obama's father, Kamala Harris's father, Rep. Ilhan Omar's parents fled the poverty, violence, and corruption of their homeland, only to find prosperity, even affluence, amid the safety and the rule of law in the United States." You would think with parents like that, and an upbringing like that you would treasure a capitalistic free society, not embrace socialism.
Yeah, except, I mean, I used to see Kamala Harris's father walk across. He was a Jamaican, and he was a Marxist, professor of Marxist economics. Obama's father was a Marxist, and so was Mamdani's, and so was his mother. And I think part of the thing is these people come from these disadvantaged areas. They get all of this largesse from the U.S. government. Almost all of them came here. Even Ilhan Omar had a scholarship. They come over here and they're lavished, especially because of the nature of current temporary immigration, DEI programs. oh, you set 1 foot across the U.S. border, then suddenly you have a claim against the government as a victim of years of oppression. But they size up the cultural landscape and they think, you know what? These people in the elite that run the universities where I'm in, or academia where I'm in, or media where I'm in, or the administrative state or USAID, they want me to be a victim. They want me to trash the United States. They want to give me money. So I'm not going to play any other role than what they want. And then their kids, and there's no civic education, and they never encounter anybody who says to Ilhan Omar or to AOC or to Kamala, you should be ashamed of yourself. Your parents came over here. The U.S. government was so generous. You got special preferences over U.S. citizens. Can't you at least say this was a good country? And can't you at least say, Barack Obama, that you don't have to go on an apology tour, or Kamala Harris, But no, they see it plays dividends in their mind to trash the United States. And it will until people change the dialectic and say, you know what? I don't care what you call me, but you are an ingrate. And that one of the worst traits is ingratitude. And you're full of ungracious ideas. And that's what they are.
Your governor there, Gavin Newsom, spent 2 days in South Carolina this week, just randomly. I mean, of course, it just happens to probably be one of the early states in the Democratic nominating process, which I found ironic that, they don't, I can't believe with everything that's going on in LA that there's not outcry that you're spending 2 days with no real agenda, just running around South Carolina trying to drum up votes. What is your take? He was talking about how proud he was of California, that they're the toughest anti-Trump state and all this stuff. And I was thinking to myself, do you really want to brag on the state of California these days?
No, he's in big trouble. He has 26% approval rating. And he just started might be the first 2 cents of what's going to be a 65-cent tax increase on gas. We already have the highest gas. The average gas here is about $4.70. I just filled up today. And we have the highest income taxes in the nation, 13.3. We've got the largest budget deficit. We have about the 5th highest sales tax. We have the highest kilowatt cost. You mentioned they can't rebuild the Palisades. They haven't been giving permits. We've had 3 catastrophic fires. He's still letting water go out to the Delta. We're short water. He hasn't built a dam in 30 years. The freeways are ranked among bottom. The public schools are down in the bottom 10%. So it's a disaster. So what he thinks, the way he squares that circle is he gets he has a flashy look. He does this with his head or neck. He has these gestures. He's glib. And then he gets away from it. He goes to the French Laundry. He goes to a Napa tasting. He has photo ops. He goes and picks up trash down at the Port of LA when they're looting train cars. He goes to South Carolina, but he sides with it, but he never sits down and says, bring in Republicans, Democrats, let's solve this budget issue. Let's solve it. So right during COVID, he said, I'm going to give $500 million to Medi-Cal for illegal aliens health care. And everybody said, well, 40% of California is on Medi-Cal. It used to be 10% 40 years ago. We can't even afford this. You're a racist. And then now that's how he operates. And then when they come and tell him it's broke, you don't have. So then he just quietly says, no more Medi-Cal for illegal aid. Or same with refineries. We're going to get rid of the refinery. We're going to all have EVs. Well, Governor, you had 30 refineries. You're down to about 12 or 10, and 2 of them are leaving. And we only have about 50% of our refining capacity soon. Oh, okay. We need more refineries. That's how he operates. It's just, he's a Nepo baby, and he's never really been out in the real world. And all of his businesses were gifted to him through his father's contact, the Getty fortune. He's a child of privilege, and it shows all the time. Yeah. And he was doing, it was very funny. He did the Charlie Kirk thing. He did the Steve Bannon thing. He had his podcast. He advertised, I'm going to be a Josh Shapiro governor. I'm can-do tactician. And then somebody said, hey, you idiot. That's for the general election. You'll never be nominated in this crazy party being a centrist. you've got to go harder left than Bernie, Elizabeth, and the squad. And once you do that and get the nomination, then you can fake it like you're a centrist. So then all of a sudden, bam, the podcasts are over with right-wing people. Now he's trashing Trump all the time. He's siding with the protesters in the street, the violent ones. And that's what he's so predictable. And the people caught on to him. And so I don't see much of a career for him.
I love the analysis, though. Victor Davis Hanson, thank you for joining us. As always, our conversations are, I love the insight you bring. And I appreciate your generosity with all your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Appreciate it. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.